Welcome in again, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the R&D Sports Report. My name is Dishmond, and I am joined, as always, by Rylee. How's it going this evening?
Doing pretty good, man.
So, there is a lot to talk about, but there's not a lot to talk about, right? It's one of those summer days, but we will forge on here and let you hear us just drone on about possibly random stuff at that.
Yep.
So, first place I do want to start, though, Rylee, is a story that got a lot of news, but then it kind of died down, and then now it's spiked up, and now it's kind of back down again. And, excuse me, that's the story of the boys soccer team in Thailand. Right, we heard a lot of news about it originally, and then it kind of died down, and then it picked back up, especially when the one Thailand Navy SEAL diver lost his life, and kind of went back down again as they weren't sure what they were going to do. But I'm happy to be able to sit here tonight and say that they all made it out. They all are alive. All 12 boys and their coach.
Yep.
Some in worse health than others, as to be expected. And you know, I think it would be hard as a parent myself to know that your child is okay, right? But they still can't see them. They're still in isolation as of when we talk right now, just for medical issues and to make sure their immune system gets back up. You can get their body temperature regulated, and they get the nutrition they need. But it's one of those things where, like, I'm sure they want to see their families. You know, their families want to see them. But at the same time, like, just for them to be in isolation is something that I'll be honest, at the beginning of this, I didn't think we were going to get to.
Yeah, definitely.
But, yeah,
it's definitely scary. I will say that. I can't imagine. I'm already claustrophobic myself, so I can't imagine being in a cave.
Well, and to know that you can't go anywhere, and you know, I don't know how long they went without actual contact, you know, with someone. I know the one diver that we talked about that lost his life. I think it's not mentioned enough, right, what he was actually able to accomplish, because he got them oxygen, right, because that was one of the issues. They were all breathing in the same air, so when we expel air out of our bodies, right, we're not just releasing pure oxygen. And so as you do that, then you start breathing in the carbon dioxide and all that comes out when we talk. And I can only imagine, like, to be in that little area, right, and not have, like, any food, and they were trapped there for, 2 weeks? But, you know, he's able to deliver them the oxygen and dies on the way back, I believe it was. But at the same time, like, I didn't realize how long that swim was at first. It's like a 2.5 mile swim.
Are you serious?
I think I heard somewhere it was like a 2.5 mile swim, and that's where the diver perished. He ran out of oxygen himself on the swim. And apparently there were points that were so narrow that they had to swim through, that they had to take their oxygen off for a brief moment, get through that little passage, and then get it back on.
Wow, that's insane.
Like, get their tanks off of them.
Wow.
And, yeah, like 2.5 mile swim, which you're making with malnourished, right, boys that aren't even that old, some of which don't even know how to swim.
Yeah. And
so, apparently this entire rescue was done by about, I think it was 2 or 4 total divers the entire time. That they would go down, and retrieve them. And apparently, the way I understand it, they started with the healthiest ones first, which you would think, well, why wouldn't you get the ones that are in the worst shape first, right? But at the same time, if you get the ones that are in the best shape, then you know if it's one of those things, if they can make it through, we know that people can make it through. But if they don't make it through, unfortunately, none of them would be able to make it through.
Right.
So you start with the healthiest. And the thing that I think, as a parent, like, when's my boy coming out? And apparently they kept it all kind of hidden away from the parents of who was coming out until they just appeared. Which is probably the best option, because then you don't have parents going, well, why is my boy not out yet? Why?
Well,
but
yeah. And I'm sure as a parent that would be one scary. I probably wouldn't be able to eat or drink or anything. I probably wouldn't be able to even sleep if I knew that my kid was in there.
Well, and to know that they've had contact with them, somewhat on and off, and they were trapped there for a total of 2 weeks. And apparently the boys are in good spirits. They wanted to be able to go to the championship game of the World Cup, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But like, they're in pretty good spirits health wise. They couldn't make the trip, but it's one of those things that I think it would have gotten more press, obviously, if it wouldn't have been in a country small as Thailand. But, if this was in the U.S., like, can you imagine the nonstop coverage, one?
Oh, yeah.
And two, probably the speed at which the rescue efforts would have been done. Probably would have been done a little faster,
yeah.
But that also goes along with the whole media coverage. You would have been forcing that hand a little more.
Yeah.
Which is somewhat sad, because, those lives are no different than if it were 12 American boys stuck in a cave.
Mm-hmm.
They're still lives. So, with that, start out on a good note here of them being saved, and unfortunately the thing is that one diver may not get a lot of publicity, if you will, the one that passed away. But, he's almost really the hero in all of this, to give them that oxygen and basically to allow the other divers and the team to figure out the way to get the boys out. So with that being said, let's now, as I talked about, move into a little bit of World Cup. Haven't talked a lot about the World Cup. And really at all since the beginning. But we have a finals matchup now between Croatia and France. First off, your overall, since we haven't talked a whole lot of soccer World Cup. There we go. I lost that my thought there for a second. But talk about your thoughts of the World Cup as a whole. What you've been able to watch here and there.
I watched a little bit of Russia, and I think a little bit of Germany as well. I've seen highlights and stuff of other countries, but it's definitely getting the publicity that I thought it would get. People are very patriotic. It's funny to see, somewhere like Croatia, not that big of a country, and people are just so into it. I think one, it's great, and two, it's just really awesome to see people just come together as a country.
Sorry, I was looking at Croatia as compared to different things. It's as you said, the Croatia not being a large country, it's it's unique in the sense that if you're talking about size wise, it's approximately what I'm reading here. It's about 56,500 square kilometers versus the U.S.'s, which is 9.8 million square kilometers. So obviously between the U.S. and Croatia, huge size difference. And Croatia having somewhere about 4 million people, 320 million living in the U.S. Obviously nothing compared to India, but just some perspectives there. And I think I had heard it said that the kind of somewhat of comparison, if you're talking states in the U.S., the size, meaning land area, about the size of West Virginia, and a population somewhere about the size of the state of Kentucky. So, that's some real perspective there for how tiny this little country is.
Right.
But when you're talking the World Cup, like, I've been so fascinated and to tune in the other day. Russia was in penalty kicks with, I think it was Croatia. It was, yes. They went to penalty kicks to obviously figure out the winner, and like getting in those penalty kicks, and these guys that pretty much just have half of a net wide open because the goalie guesses wrong and they just miss. Like, I can only imagine the amount of pressure that they are putting on themselves.
Especially with the whole country behind you.
And that's the thing.
Crazy.
Like, you have the whole country, and you have those fans right there. Like, and you can feel the energy right in that stadium. You got people painted up here and there, and it's just, I don't know, it's something else, and something that I hope to be able to experience someday. You and I had talked off the air about, maybe in 2026 when they're talking about bringing it to the U.S. and all that, to maybe try and go to some venue wherever a venue would be that would be closest to us. And I think it would be an experience of a lifetime.
Well, I would agree. I just, you were talking about the pressure of, penalty kicks and stuff like that. I just can't even imagine. Could you imagine if maybe like you lost the game for the country?
Well, I was gonna say, like, so if one side goes for 5 penalty kick makes and your side only goes for 4 and you're the miss, yeah, like, can you imagine that on your shoulders there? And like, I couldn't imagine even trying to go back to the country, like, right. Be like, can I just live here now?
Exactly.
But yeah, it just. And you saw it with those guys, like, how easily they would miss. As I said, a net that's half open, and those guys easily could be able to shoot it in there at having a half open goal all the time. They thread the needle more than that. But going back to Croatia, as we were talking here, I was looking up some statistics if you're talking of population. So theirs is, and I'm reading this off of Wikipedia, so maybe not the most reliable source, but the quickest one I could also find. Their population is probably somewhere about 4.3 million people. And if you're doing that, the state of Kentucky has a little over 4.3 million people in the state of Kentucky. So, they're bigger than the state of Oregon, but they're not bigger than the state of Louisiana when you're talking about population. So, a little bit of perspective there, considering that they are in the World Cup. You know, they've beaten some of these powers and knocked it out. You know, they knocked out Russia, which Russia wasn't a power, and they were more of a Cinderella story. But still, you were on Russian soil playing Russia. Like, that's a lot of pressure. You know, they had the home field advantage there. But let me see. Size-wise, it is a little bit smaller if you're just talking land area. Granted, shapes are different. But it's a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, I should say, than the state of West Virginia.
Wow.
So the state of West Virginia has approximately 24,000 square miles in land. This one's land and water. I don't know if the Croatian one is talking about land and water here, but it's somewhere about almost 22,000. A little bit under. But, you know, that, like, if you're thinking about it when you look at a map, West Virginia is not exactly a large state. So it's amazing when you put it into those comparisons how much more magnitude it shines on there. Or, you know, the light that it shines on Croatia being in its first World Cup.
Not only that, but I mean, like we're talking, put in this perspective, such a small country, you wouldn't think country like Croatia would be.
Well, and you normally don't see those small countries make a run.
No, you think.
I mean, you think of who was in the semifinals there. You had England and France as two of them, and what was the other one? Belgium, I think.
Yeah.
You know, in and of itself, not necessarily a large country, but a bigger name than a Croatia.
Is Messi on Portugal?
No. Messi is Argentina.
Oh, Argentina. That's what I'm thinking about. Okay, thank you. You know, you think of someone like Argentina, or
once again,
Brazil.
when you think of like a bigger area of land, you know, that you're covering there.
Well, even Brazil.
Well, yeah, Neymar with Brazil, like how massive Brazil is.
What is Ronaldo on? Man, I'm like, it's really late, guys. Sorry, I'm like, my brain is slowly trying to function right now.
Ronaldo who did he play for? It wasn't Spain, I don't think.
Hold on, I'm about to look this up.
I'm trying to think.
Who does Ronaldo play for?
Okay,
Real Madrid.
Real Madrid. That's his pro soccer team that he plays for. What's his home? Does it say his home country there?
No, it doesn't. Let me see.
So Belgium, to give a little perspective, has a population over 11 million in a smaller area than Croatia does. So they're a little more compacted, but at the same time, you know, a bigger country than Croatia. They're, you know, smallest ones there.
Right. That's crazy.
But Ronaldo.
Forgive me, I said Real. I meant
Real Madrid. It's okay. Portugal. Why did I not guess Portugal? I should have known that.
Portugal for what?
His home country is Portugal.
Oh, well, at least I was right on something. I think. I don't know.
I said Spain, so that wasn't even right.
Well, you're too sleepy.
Well.
But we love you guys enough to give you an episode. We love you that much.
Our
hearts to you.
How did I not guess Portugal? That's going to drive me nuts why I didn't get Portugal now.
Where do you think he was from?
I don't know. I couldn't place it. Like, for some reason I was thinking Spain, and I know that wasn't right.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I could see why you would think Spain, but
now I'm going to go down a rabbit hole of Portugal here.
Oh God. Help us all.
Now I'm just going down rabbit holes of looking how big different countries are.
Geography lesson of the day.
Well, It's more about perspective.
That should be a movie quote. I'm just saying, like, that sounded like a movie quote.
It's more about perspective.
It's more about perspective. Like, what are you doing here in Portugal? Perspective. Like, what? No.
Portugal there has more area than Croatia does, and is estimated to have somewhere between 10 million and 10.5 million people.
So, I mean, it's a decent size.
So,
country.
you're talking double the size.
Yeah.
Of Croatia, and you think about some of these countries that are in the World Cup. It's rare that you see something like Croatia being able to make it in the World Cup. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. But as I just stumbled onto a rabbit hole here. Let's see what the smallest country is that's ever reached a World Cup.
It should be fun.
Just trying to scan through.
I'm gonna guess. Vlachtien.
Did you sneeze?
No, Vlachtien.
I'm pretty sure you're just sneezing. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure you're saying an actual.
It's actually like a country that's like
Uruguay is the smallest to reach the World Cup final, and they won it in 1930 and 1950.
Ouch.
Uruguay currently has a population of 3.4 million people, and if you go back to 1930, that had an estimated 1.7 million people back then.
Wow.
So they also made the final in 1938 and 1954 and lost. Man, that's a heck of a run to win it in 30. You got to remember this happens every 4 years. You win it in 1930. You're back in the final in 38, and then you win it again in 50, and then that next year you're back in the final and lose it. But still, man.
Vlachtien.
Yeah, you're just...
It's like I'm saying bless you, but like in Russian. Vlachtien.
Okay, so Croatia and Uruguay are the ones that are the smallest. Here's another comparison's sake, right? Germany, who won it in, what's this year? 2014. Germany, who won it then... You want to guess how many people they have? Roundabout it.
Okay, so...
How many? I'll give you this. It's in the millions.
God,
it's between 1 million and 100 million.
Let's see.
So
Germany, let's see. It's not like... It's big. It's a big country, but not like as big.
Well,
as like Russia or something.
Well, and that's the thing is
or
like
even,
when you say big country, I know what you mean is big in comparison to other European countries there.
Right.
But yeah, go ahead.
58 mil.
You're gonna have to go a little higher.
Really?
82 million people.
That's what I said.
So you could have a winner in Croatia that would have, approximately just over 4 million people versus 82 million.
That's what I said was 82. Just that good, bro. I wish y'all could see my head. I got like this smart like smirk on my face, nodding my head. It's great.
So as I'm reading this story here on SB Nation, talking about Croatia not being the smallest country, which is where I got those statistics, they had a quick caveat here, and it was these population statistics when it comes to countries that produce good teams are kind of over-discussed, and creating a good national team is a lot more about a country's sporting culture than about how many people live there. It says, you ready for this? For instance, no one bats an eye that Alabama produces more good football players than New York, even though New York has 5 times as many people as Alabama does. It's just football's a lot more important in Alabama than New York. It's a nice little tangent there. And something I guess you don't really think of, when the U.S. has, I'm not even going to try to do the math, 320 million people versus 4 million or so for Croatia, and you can see that Croatia's desire, right, for soccer, for football, if you will, is greater than the U.S. is. Obviously, the U.S. not making the World Cup. But it is true, if you, whatever your country or state, whatever you focus on, you're more likely to be better at that. So I guess when you put it into that kind of terms, it does make a little more sense for a team like a Croatia to win, or to be there at least, a team like France to be there. Probably would be more of an anomaly if the U.S. actually made it there. But, there's always like 2050 or something when we might actually be able to make it there.
Because why? USA. No, I'm just kidding.
No. We just don't put a whole lot of importance on soccer.
Well, we got so many other sports.
Well, and see that's somewhat of the other problem.
Like football, like for Brazil, is like their main sport.
Well, and that for a lot of these countries that you see in the World Cup, soccer, football, however you want to say it, that's like their sport. If you go to a place like Japan, they get a little more involved in with like baseball, as you see with these pitchers and hitters and all that are always coming over to Major League Baseball. Here in the U.S., it's one of those things where we're blessed with so much, and we don't realize how that affects us elsewhere. It's one of those things where we can go play baseball, we can go play football, we can go play basketball, we can go play soccer. It doesn't matter. And we can go do that. We can do none of it. In some of these countries, soccer's an escape. Baseball is an escape. So it makes a little bit more sense when you do put it into that way. But enough here, I guess, on the World Cup. By the way, winner of the World Cup,
France.
I'm just gonna go with a little engine that could and take on Croatia.
Would France.
You care? Do what?
I said, go France. We got Statue of Liberty on our side.
Statue of Liberty got their help in the American Revolution. So you want to put a score on the match?
I'm gonna go with France 3, Croatia 1.
I'm going to go Croatia 2. Well, actually, no. Here's how I want to do it. 1-1 tie to penalty kicks. Croatia wins 4-3 in PK.
Okay, that's reasonable.
I don't know. Something random. I was going to go just Croatia 2-1, but should be interesting. Do you know by chance when that game is?
What, the France game?
Yes.
Hold on real quick. I'll look it up. Hold on. France. Croatia.
I can't. Whoop. I went back too far. Whoop. I guess
you got that McDonald's Wi-Fi.
I guess I could have.
It's on Sunday.
Is it on Sunday?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I might be
7:11 a.m.
What?
Well,
did you speak English there?
Sunday, 7:15. Not the date.
Yeah, 11. Oh, it comes on at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Might be able to catch the end part of that or something. Might catch a little bit of it. Okay.
Go France. France has got this.
You know what's funny? As I look at these two flags.
Bonjour.
Please stop. As I look at the two flags, they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
Both having red, white, and blue in them. Which is going to lead me down another rabbit hole to see what's the most popular color scheme, but I won't do that now.
No, don't do that.
The third place playoff game, by the way, is between Belgium and England at 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 14th. So, probably won't watch that one.
Cool.
Just for anybody listening that would like to watch that. Let's shift over.
Ooh, what's next?
I tell you what, we'll wrap up with the NBA. Actually, no. Let's go ahead and get into it. The NBA, it's always funny because it's almost like it never really has a downtime.
No, not really.
The only downtime I would say the NBA really has is somewhere between like mid-August through about mid-October, right about time training camps come back through.
Yeah, I can agree.
Like the NFL right now, it's kind of a dead time for it. Not a lot of news. Unfortunately, the only news you get out of this time is, like a LaShawn McCoy being accused of, I think it was assault on his wife, I think, and there's a couple other players that have been accused of it, and want to be careful. They are accused, and because I know you and I both believe in innocent till proven guilty, or in the case there of like Ray Rice a few years ago, you saw that video come out, and at that point it's pretty evident. So
right.
But let's I tell you what. Where do you want to start here in the NBA? Because obviously Carmelo kind of dominates. I'm going to go to a little other stuff, and we'll circle back to Carmelo here.
It's up to you, bub. It's up to you.
Great help there.
I'm down.
You're helpful. Some of the biggest news, Devin Booker gets a massive new contract with the crazy amount of money, and this coming just after reports that he wasn't happy because his buddy Tyler Ulis got released. Probably a lot of just hoopla, and obviously just people talking to talk, and maybe it was a ploy by his team to make sure he gets more money. But the other guy that's apparently coming up toward being able to sign his max deal is Karl Anthony Towns, right? And I'd say it's somewhat shocking, but at the same time, if you're these teams, you can kind of lock them in ahead. You see, the way it's all set up, it's better on their part if you are the star of the team, like a Devin Booker, like a Karl Anthony Towns, to go ahead and just sign this max deal. And then at the end of this deal, you would be, I believe, an unrestricted free agent instead of a restricted free agent next year. So, at the same time, they can pay you a crap ton of money. I don't blame you for signing it. I'd sign it if I could. But it's interesting to me in both these instances, you have something coming up about them. Maybe a little beef between Jimmy Butler and Karl Anthony Towns. Devin Booker's maybe not fully happy with the Suns, but at the end of the day, it seems to be that money talks a lot.
Yeah. Now, let me stop you there. Look, Jimmy, just a question because I can't remember. Is Jimmy Butler a free agent this year?
He's not this summer. I believe it's next summer when he becomes a free agent with like Kawhi and presumably Kevin Durant again after he can opt out. And I believe Klay Thompson's like a free agent next year too. Kyrie.
Okay. Yeah. Look, Kyrie, KD, Klay, Jimmy Butler, and Kawhi to the Magic confirmed. You were into it too. You were like, okay.
Well, I just thought you were naming them off for a second. I was like, okay, where are you going with this? Yeah, I don't know about the whole Magic confirmed, but
okay, But Jimmy Butler, I saw something on Bleacher Report, and he had liked some. I don't know why people go crazy over somebody liking something.
It's one of those things everybody tries, and they like try to track the trail of whatever they might do, and you try to read into whatever you like on Instagram.
I know, can I just live my social
but
life?
But anyways, you go ahead and finish what you were saying there.
I just think, it was something from the Spurs, by the way. So I was thinking if he was a free agent this year, maybe he would sign with the Spurs because Tony Parker, of course. By the way, Tony Parker did go to the Hornets. I can't remember how many years.
I think it was 2 years, $10 million.
Okay.
So what, $5 million a year?
Yeah. So Tony Parker went to the Charlotte Hornets. Kind of interested in seeing how it is. It's more of like a Michael Jordan at the end of his career with the Wizards. But I think it'd be cool to see like Jimmy Butler and Ginobili. Even
Ginobili maybe has one good year in him, and then he'll probably retire.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you talk Jimmy Butler and a guy like
Kawhi.
Oh shoot, LaMarcus Aldridge there inside. If you can maybe put another piece there,
Carmelo.
And oh my goodness, we'll get to Melo. But at the same time, like if you can replace a Kawhi with a Jimmy Butler, that's a pretty even trade to me.
I would agree.
But at the same time, like I somehow feel that this whole situation in Minnesota get like smoothed over, because obviously you just. It's one of those things I feel like sometimes this stuff, especially in the summertime, people just spout off things just to make conversation, I guess, and make the sports world go round. But, next year that it will be interesting to see where some of these go. I was reading a little... Once again, one of these just little things in the summer where I was talking about next summer if KD opts out, where the Knicks could try to get a meeting with him, which, the Knicks are thought to be maybe the front runner for a guy like Kyrie, which, I mean, you put a Kyrie with a KD, a Kristaps Porzingis, and, like some of the other young talent they have there, like, then you go, wait, are these the same Knicks that have been sucking for like all of my adult life?
Hold the phone. Just calm down. You're getting yourself worked up. What in the? Hold on. I can't even imagine. No.
Well, see, that's what they say is that.
No.
Kyrie wants to go to the Knicks.
What? Dude, people need to just stop. Unless it's from Woj or The Ringer or there's like one more. Adrian? No.
Mark Stein?
Yeah, that's it. Other than those three, I don't trust nothing. Nothing.
Even at that, like if it comes from Mark Stein or like Woj, or let me put it to you this way. If it comes directly from them or they say this person said, that to me says, okay, these dudes know. That other person just beat them to it.
Right.
But, who knows? Maybe Kyrie stays in Boston. Maybe he goes to the bright lights of New York.
No. Look, I already hate Porzingis being there because, one, huge fan. I love him. Two, it's like, it's just him. Even then, the Knicks are just trash. They haven't been good since what? Melo?
Well, you could probably make an argument that they haven't been maybe truly competitive since Melo maybe first arrived on the scene in New York.
Yeah. Either way, I think it'd be cool to see what you just said.
It's once again an interesting thought.
It is. It is. Because it's a different team.
Well, because you have Kyrie at the point, and then you could envision a time where Porzingis and KD are playing the 4 and 5, and you just drafted, Kevin Knox that could play the 3 for you.
By the way, he killed it in the summer league.
He has been killing it in the summer. Some of those dunks the other day he was throwing down were nasty. Which once again, summer league kind of it's hard to judge the summer league.
Yeah,
but you think of some of the young talent that the Knicks do have, and even at that, you could slide because if they can keep Enes Kanter there, he's not a great just demonstrative center, but he's a pretty good center.
No, he's the guy to go rim to rim.
You could put him there at the 5, Porzingis at the 4, KD at the 3, move a Kevin Knox to the 2. Then you really get kind of a scary lineup there. Now, having said that, I don't know money-wise that they could actually make it work.
No.
But, just that's the same thing that Golden State will face really starting next offseason is you're not going to be able to keep all these dudes.
That's why you just get rid of the coach. Just
coach. But honestly, that's because I think Draymond is a restricted free agent or becomes a unrestricted next year, and he's been quoted as saying he's not taking a pay cut. So
Draymond,
if you
Thunder.
say, okay, Draymond, there you go, maybe he goes to the Magic, confirmed.
Exactly. Exactly.
But if you send him to Pac, then you could keep a guy like a DeMarcus Cousins around, because he signed a 1-year deal, and then you can give him more of the money that he wanted.
Yeah, you're looking at me with that.
I'm saying it makes sense when you say, okay, Draymond, there's the door.
It does, but
we can find somebody that can basically do what you do, but we may not be able to find another dude that can do what DeMarcus can do. So,
I think that's what's going to happen next week. Is not next week,
year,
but next year.
Yeah.
Okay. Next year, I think it's going to be a fight between DeMarcus and Draymond, but just because one of them is going to get kicked. One of them.
Well, if you're DeMarcus, you can't really say that you expected to maybe keep or stay around. You did this deal to prove that you are coming back just as good as you were before, and that you can be a part of a winning environment. You can be, your emotions can be in check, and you're basically trying to rebrand yourself, if you will, if you're DeMarcus here with the Warriors. So, the other thing in this free agency, a lot of talk. Kevin Love maybe would be traded. Looking like now not going to be traded.
Surprisingly to me.
Well, it is surprising to me, but at the same time, he then can become your superstar, and he killed it when he was in Minnesota and was kind of the only guy there. And maybe that's what happens there in Cleveland for him, or to me, honestly, the way I see this kind of playing out is Cleveland goes, okay, we're going to make Kevin Love our superstar, okay? And he's going to be our superstar until right before the trade deadline, because we're going to make him look like the old Kevin Love, and we're going to say, hey, who wants him? And we're going to get all these assets for him. That's, in my mind, the way I envision it playing out. And let me just say, if it happens that way, I'm going to roll this tape back and say, hey, you got it here. Woj didn't get you on this scoop. I got you on this scoop, Woj.
All right, calm down, Stephen A. Smith, with your little predictions. All right. Look, I can't even say nothing. I think what you just said pretty much sums it all up. That'd be pretty cool, though.
Well, to me, if you can market Kevin Love, once again, kind of that rebranding thing that DeMarcus needs to do. If Kevin Love retools himself, he makes himself more valuable.
Kevin Love to the Magic confirmed.
I knew you were going there. You had this look on your face like, I got something good. And I knew it was to the Magic confirmed.
Or OKC Thunder confirmed. Could you imagine?
You know, honestly, you say the OKC Thunder, but could you imagine if, like, the Rockets try to acquire him?
Oh, my, dude,
like, they already led the league last year in three-pointers made and attempted.
I'd probably just stop watching the NBA, period.
Well, you'd that Western Conference final, presumably between the Rockets at that point and Golden State, would be for the NBA final championship. Like, you might as well just go ahead and hand them the Larry O'Brien trophy.
For real.
At that point. But I don't know. It's one of those things I feel like somebody somewhere will make a last-minute trade for Kevin Love at the trade deadline after his stats have improved, post-LeBron, and somebody will make that trade to try and make that last-second push, either to the playoffs or trying to get to maybe the Eastern Conference Finals. So, there is one big free agent, if you will, kind of still out there. Restricted free agent now, mind you. Marcus Smart. Clint Capella is still out there, but I feel like he's just going back to the Rockets at this point. I think he is a restricted free agent, so whoever makes him an offer, they can match it and say, here you go. Much like the Bulls did for Zach LaVine. The Kings make him an offer. The Bulls say, no, we're going to keep him. We'll match that offer. Marcus Smart has the ability, if he can, to get offers from somewhere, but the Celtics have the right to match it. You were talking about people following on social media. That's the same thing we have, with Marcus Smart talking to the Nets. Was it GM or owner or something? Whatever it was.
GM.
I feel like you just have people now. Like if you and I were talking and I was, in a role of prominence or something, be like, "Oh, Riley's gonna go work for him now."
No, I'm just talking to you.
It's like people can't talk to one another about stuff like that. It's just like, really?
Not only that, but
like, why do we always have to be speculating on stuff? Now, mind you, that's part of what you and I are doing here. So it's one of those like the pot calling the kettle black things. Like, but at the same time, you and I don't look at a photo and go, "Oh, Marcus Smart to the Nets confirmed." Like,
no. The thing is one, it's the Nets, bro.
Look, the only reason you go there is to get paid.
Exactly. If you want a ring, I'd stay at the Celtics. Whether you get matched the offer or not, I'd stay no matter what happens. Just because, besides the 76ers, you don't really have anybody else in the Eastern Conference. So, yeah, you got this, Boston. Another thing is, Marcus Smart was talking to... Was he talking to somebody else? I
want to say maybe like the Kings or something like that.
Oh, yeah. It was the Kings. Yeah. And the Kings, I mean, I could see with like De'Aaron Fox, but other than De'Aaron, there's really nobody I can think of off the top of my head that's good on the team. I don't think Marcus would work there at all. I don't think he'd work at the Nets at all. But
well, and honestly, I feel Marcus Smart to me. And sorry to interrupt you there.
No, you're good.
But to me, Marcus Smart's best fit is with the Celtics. I think if somebody gets him to try to be their primary point guard, it's not going to work out. Now, that's my opinion. But it's one of those things. It's just like, I don't know, that whole speculation thing, and it's just like I feel like he's just going to end up back in Boston at this point.
Right.
All the big names obviously have gone, and a little frustrating when you get to this point. It's like, really, people like, why are we so uptight about this?
Well, because they want
news.
news.
If Boston wants to, Boston can match any offer that comes to them.
It's because they want news. That's all it is.
It is. It's just stuff to talk about. And let's be honest, you and I are sitting here yapping about it, so we can't complain too much.
Well, here's the thing. Social media is ridiculous nowadays. But, like, just because you go to sit down with someone that's famous. If I go to sit down with Jennifer Lopez, you think that I'm her kid? No. No, heck no.
No, that means you're dating J-Lo, which, by the way, A-Rod would probably kill you. But
don't care. I got A-Rod. No worries. Jennifer, I got you too. If you're listening, I got you, girl. All right. What's next on the list since the Nets are awful?
All right, last thing for NBA-wise is this Carmelo Anthony saga with him and OKC. I think we talked about it a little bit last time. They're looking to waive him. Our days honestly kind of run together for me, whether I talk about stuff on here or I talk to you just in person about it. But if we haven't talked about it, the OKC Thunder and Carmelo Anthony are working either on a trade or a deal to be able to make him a free agent. And, you might say, well, why would a trade make him a free agent? Because wherever he goes, Carmelo Anthony has a no-trade clause in his contract. And wherever he goes, he can kind of control, but he's basically informed them, look, wherever I go, I want to be bought out of my contract. I want to, or I have, for OKC to stretch my money out. So for OKC, the smartest thing here is to try and see if somebody wants to waive Melo's contract for them, wants to buy him out, and they can get something in return. I know, Rylee, you said you saw something about the Nets maybe and Jeremy Lin, and I think like a draft pick or something like that for Carmelo, and then the Nets would end up buying out Carmelo's contract.
Here's my thoughts on that. One, I would love Jeremy Lin to be Russ's backup. Two, I never thought it would be the Nets, and granted, if Melo did go there, it'd be because of the money.
But it wouldn't necessarily, like, if he would go there and, like, they can't see me, but you can see me putting quotes around "go there." Yeah. It's more just to facilitate the trade, and then a couple days later, let's say, look, here's your buyout. After you clear waivers, which is like maybe a week or something like that, a few days, whatever it is for NBA, then you become an unrestricted free agent and are free to sign with whoever you want. That's the only way any trade is getting done for OKC, is whoever will buy out Carmelo's contract so he can become a free agent and go sign with presumably the Rockets.
I thought of something today. I thought, what if all this is just crap and he stays with them this year?
Well,
I mean, granted they want to part ways. OKC is trying to part ways. I think they're about tired of Melo. But I was, as you said, Rockets before I interrupted. Sorry. The Rockets, I think, would probably be best fit. I hate saying that because
I think offensively, his skill set wise, I agree with you that fit is better for him, especially him to be able to just jack up threes all day. The Rockets are looking at maybe adding Nick Young, Swaggy P, to their lineup, which you sacrifice defense with him. You do the same with Carmelo, but in return, you get a little more offensive firepower.
I feel like they already have that, though. They need more.
Well, but at the same time,
people.
like, you lost Trevor Ariza. You need to replace that. If you get a dude like Carmelo, that can replace his offensive. Now, Ariza is a better defender than Carmelo, but maybe you can make up for it somewhere else. Swaggy P, kind of to replace that Mba Mute that they lost to the Clippers. it's one of those things you try to balance out who you lost with getting somebody else in. But you're talking about a Carmelo Anthony who's like 34 years old, coming up toward the twilight of his career, and kind of just looking maybe for a place now to ride off into the sunset and maybe get a shot at a title. And I'll be honest, he goes to Houston, and that might be a reality for him, just because we saw how that series played out with Golden State. Now, having said that, I still think Golden State comes out of the West. Even with the Rockets being...
No, stop. Shut them down, open up shop. Stop. No.
Please don't give me that the OKC Thunder are coming out of the West.
No. The Magic.
Well, for one, the Magic
Yeah,
are
I
in
know.
the
It's East. Either way, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, you were just saying, I got it. You were saying the Magic win the whole thing, no matter what.
Yes.
That's what you were saying.
Thank you.
Confirmed, right?
Confirmed.
Okay.
Totally.
All right. So, this whole Melo saga, like, to me, I feel like it's almost like the Kawhi saga. Like,
yes. He's just going to
it really, until something happens either way, you and I probably won't bring it up again on here. Just because it gets redundant, it gets repetitive to just go, oh, Melo, where's he going? Where's he going? Where's he going to go? When in reality, he's going to get traded somewhere, he'll get bought out, and he'll probably end up at the Rockets. Maybe Lakers. I don't know.
Exactly.
There was some talk that he could be going to Cleveland, last year when LeBron was there.
Or I even heard about the Magic. I'm just kidding.
Well, maybe he'll go like everybody else and join the Warriors for like the
Dude,
minimum contract, like a $2 million contract or something.
Dude, I swear if he went to the Warriors,
I'd be so done.
We'd just quit the podcast, everything, just done. We're done. Everything's just done.
But kind of here on a last...
Real quick, can I add something? Thanos did join the Warriors last week. He did sign a 1 year, $5 million contract with all of his Infinity Stones. He looks to get another ring. So it should be exciting.
Oh, nerd alert there.
Yep.
But that you talk about the Infinity Stone, that's like a meme that just goes around everywhere.
Thanos has joined the Warriors.
Yeah, he for a veteran minimum at that, and I was like like $2.5 million contract there. So
it's like the whole Avengers are now on the Warriors. Like,
what? They will be starting Iron Man, and how do they keep coming up with this money,
bruh?
But I think actually the Warriors, either this year or maybe it's next year, that they're actually getting a new arena. They're moving out of Oakland and moving to San Francisco.
I'm surprised they even got the money.
Well, hey, it might be a little bit taxpayer money in there too.
I know.
But yeah, I agree with you, and that's the thing though. They're willing to pay it. You look at a team like Indiana.
Here comes the money.
They don't want to pay into that luxury tax, and I can't blame them. Being a smaller market there in Indianapolis. You have teams like Golden State who just they're in the Bay Area, so they can afford to be able to do that a little bit better. But I want to end here on something we don't talk a lot about, and that would be the UFC. And really and truly, the biggest story is Brock Lesnar hopping back into the ring after the UFC fight, and I can't remember that guy's name for the life of me, that he hopped back in with. But, getting in there and pushing him, and I saw it a couple of places on actually multiple places on Twitter. Everybody's talking about, how much better the UFC is when it's a little bit more like WWE in the sense of creating that drama like that, hopping in the cage and shoving and telling him that he's a piece of crap and that you can't beat me. And then we learned that Brock Lesnar actually gets back into the anti-doping pool for UFC, so presumably he's going back in for another fight. And it's I don't know. To me, UFC is more entertaining when it's that way. But
my thoughts on that, because I knew you were gonna ask it. Now I've been waiting. Ooh, okay. When it popped up on my phone, I'm like, Brock attacked somebody in the ring. I gotta watch this. The guy wins the title. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I feel like it starts with A. Hopefully you maybe try to look it up for me or something. But anyways, guy gets the title and he's like, give me the mic. He's got the mic in his hand. He calls out Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar has this smirk on his face of, okay, that's fine. He gets up into the ring, goes to the door, comes over to the guy and pushes him. And, of course, a whole fight breaks out. Everybody's trying to break it up. What I will say, that dude, Brock Lesnar, is a freaking beast, bro. I mean, WWE, he doesn't really look like a beast. But in UFC, he is the one to kill you, bro. He is the one to smash you. I'm hoping that they make a fight out of that. And if they do, I'm definitely going to try to watch it. But have you figured out his name yet?
No, I'm working on it.
No.
Hang on. I'll go to the Google machine.
Google, the best place to search. Like if you want to go to an Orlando Magic game and go see Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and Clay, you just look and there's $2 for a ticket. I should get an album. Y'all agree? Hit me up on Twitter, RD_ or Rylee.
You don't even know your own Twitter handle.
Hey, look, man, I'm tired, bro. Calm down. I'm slowly.
Okay, so it's
but surely.
Daniel. Is it Cormier? I think was the guy that Brock got into the ring with. But at the same time, like Brock's had issues with doping agency before. Not saying he's doping, not saying he's not doping. But, it's kind of food for thought there. But, when I see him, he's one of those guys that's been able to make that transition from WWE to UFC, back to WWE. Like, there's not many dudes who have been able to do it. A guy like a Bobby Lashley, he went out to do it, and he did okay. Never really made it to the UFC, to the big show, Dave Bautista tried doing it and now does more movies than anything. Most recently, Ronda Rousey has gone the opposite way from UFC to WWE and seems to have done pretty well so far in her short WWE career. It seems to have caught on pretty quick.
That's like CM Punk went from WWE to UFC.
Right, and failed miserably. He gets smashed.
Still love CM Punk, favorite wrestler of all time.
But, Ronda Rousey is this show and Brock Lesnar. But I agree, UFC, a couple people I saw say it were Sam Roberts and Peter Rosenberg, a couple guys who commentate on the side, and both of which have their own podcast talking WWE. They were saying, this is when UFC is best. And it is. Like, you think of it. When Conor McGregor's up there running his mouth and, pushing people here and there, like, that's when UFC's at its best.
Right. Because
that's when it's entertaining,
Yeah.
When it's just dudes in their little skivvies, with fists balled up just for a picture, like, who cares? Really? Like, it's best when there's some drama happening.
Yeah. Well, I can 100% agree with you. I think it's cool when they're aggravating each other and they all want to just rip each other's face off. That is like the best feeling ever because you're like, ooh, go get him, dude. Get him. Bite his face off.
Well, and I think, like, the thing for me is, you look at WWE and that it is scripted in a sense of, a lot of times before the match even starts who's winning. Sometimes they find out in the match who's winning. But it's one of those things like UFC, yeah, you've got to beat somebody up. But what's best is when you take the best elements of both of those. The production that WWE is, the story that they tell, inside the ring, and with the way they posture against each other and stare each other in the face and this and that. Like, the way you do that works great in UFC because it helps to blur those lines between what's real, and what's not real. That's when, wrestling, sports entertainment, if you're WWE, right, that's when it's at its best, is when you can't tell if these dudes actually have real beef or if it's just a part of their act at this time.
What do I say on every pay-per-view? It's not a pay-per-view
unless you see blood.
Exactly.
Which you might see that. It is Extreme Rules this weekend.
Yeah.
And Extreme Rules is one of those things that in this PG area has really gotten, knocked down a whole lot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it's just fun. An Extreme Rules match is just fun. But, you if you could blur that line literally between, like, Brock Lesnar being could you imagine him in an octagon with weapons besides his fists? Like,
no.
If you're here at Wikipedia, he's listed at 6'3", 286. So,
wow.
He's a big old man. And it's one of those things, it's just like, I don't know. For me, I always want Brock Lesnar, though, to never say anything. Like, I just want Paul Heyman to always follow him. To follow him. Like, I wanted him in that ring in UFC just to yap for him.
No kidding.
Just because. But, it's so much better when UFC is entertaining like that. When, like, and you can tell at UFC, these dudes have legit beef. Like, they want to knock the crap out of each other. And, let's be honest. Lesnar, whatever he's doing, is a big ticket draw no matter what. So, best thing to me is for both WWE and UFC to kind of work together and, like, cross-promote Brock Lesnar. To me, that's the best for both companies here. But, that's kind of all I got there on the UFC. All that's really kind of happening, per se, and big news. Yeah, we could dig a little deeper and dive into things. But maybe that we'll save that for another day. The interesting thing is that, Brock Lesnar's 41. Just turned 41, it looks like. So, it's not exactly a young pup.
No.
As he used to be. So, if you have any of your own Brock Lesnar thoughts, any of your own Carmelo Anthony thoughts, any of your thoughts on
Orlando Magic.
The Orlando Magic, yeah, exactly. If you're a Magic fan, you can just tell Rylee to shut up, that nobody's coming there, because they are the Orlando Magic. But any thoughts on anything like that, you can hit us up on social media. On Twitter, I'm at @dish_RD Sports. Rylee is at Rylee_RD Sports, and it's RYLEE on the Rylee. And you can hit us up on the podcast page on Facebook or on Twitter. Facebook, you can just search the R&D Sports Report. It'll pop up. It should pop up too if you just type in RD Sports. If you go to Twitter, it's R&D Sports Report. On Twitter, I went blank there for a second, Rylee. But you can hit us up that way, or you can just leave a review on iTunes. If you want to let us know your thoughts that way. Just when you do that, make sure you hit the 5-star, just to have the good karma going around for you.
And real quick, I do want to say, we love you guys. We love you.
We do, and just also got a little confirmation earlier today that the podcast at some point will be up on Spotify. Be sure to tune in to either the Facebook page or the Twitter page there for the podcast, and I'll let you know as soon as it becomes available on Spotify. But pretty soon you'll be able to listen to us and your favorite music at the same place. But with that being said, that'll do it for another episode of the R&D Sports Report.